When you give your brain some quiet time where it is not constantly surrounded by screens and music and smartphone info, your brain has time to actually do its job. And that is just to think about stuff. When given a chance to be on its own without distractions, our brains have time to process what's going on in our lives. You have time to just sift through your day and process information and reflect on things. And this is where you can find answers to problems that seem unsolvable. Welcome to the BDI Create Today podcast. This is a podcast where we uncover and discover the who, what, where, when, why, and how you can be creative or have more creativity. And together, we'll explore the extraordinary impact creativity can have in your life, in heart, mind, body, and soul. And if we haven't met yet, I'm Beth Buffington, a licensed artist, digital illustration instructor, and a creative coach living just outside of the Windy City, Chicago. But mostly, I'm someone who is curious about how creativity can weave its way into nearly everything in our lives. Each week, we are going to look at one or more of the sparkly facets that make up the ever-changing kaleidoscope that is creativity. Welcome back, my creative friend. You're listening to Create Today, and I'm so glad you've popped in to listen. Today, we're exploring a topic that might sound counterintuitive, and that is purposely deciding to let ourselves be bored. When was the last time you remember being bored? And when you realized that you were in fact bored, did you scramble to your phone or to your music or a podcast like right now, or to the closest screen for the latest and whatever was being displayed for the very reason that, oh my gosh, suddenly I have nothing to do and I might be bored? So let's stop for a second. Why is it bad to be bored? In our fast-paced, hyper-connected world, the idea of boredom seems like something we should not do. Because in our digital age, true moments of idleness are increasingly rare. We fill every spare moment with distractions. Screens, smartphones, social media, headphones. We seem to be very afraid of being alone with our thoughts. Yeah? We are constantly bombarded with stimuli, like notifications on our phones, endless streams of content on social media, and the never-ending information from entertainment options, all at our fingertips. By constantly seeking stimulation, do we deny ourselves the opportunity to tap into our very deepest wells of creativity? Have we lost that? The other night, Tom and I went out for dinner. We went to this restaurant that promised 29 craft beers on tap and boasted a lovely eclectic menu to match. It seemed like a great place for us to go and have just a nice dinner. The promise was correct. Lots of interesting craft brews and some super fun food to pair with them. But oh my goodness, we were hit in the face with screens everywhere when we entered the restaurant. And the music was so loud. We had to lean into each other, lips to ear, to have a normal conversation. It was like we had gone clubbing. The music had nothing to do with anything that was going on with any of the dozens of screens. And each screen had something completely different happening. It seems almost impossible these days to go to a restaurant where your senses aren't bursting with info for the eyes and the ears. And I must say that, Tom and I, we brought enough distractions with us. We each had our smartphones, and I am guilty of checking for texts and Snapchats and emails whenever we go out for dinner. And that evening, I think I probably checked my email several times. I wonder what our dinner experience would have been like if there weren't countless large screen TVs and if the overhead music had been a whisper in the background, and if we could have put our phones away in our pockets or maybe left them in the car. Now, Tom and I, we chatted a lot during our dinner. We did have a nice dinner. But could it have been even better if we would have not had an explosion of constant stimuli flashing at us in our eyes and blaring at us in our ears? Would we have experienced more taste in our food and our drink? Would we have had more memories about the conversation we shared? In today's world, most people spend more time with their smartphones than anything else during their day. And that's more time with their phones than they spend with their partners or their best friends or even their pets. When we have a spare moment, standing in line, sitting in a waiting room, or in an Uber, we run to all the things that can fill that moment. Social media, emails, texts, music, and even podcasts. We are constantly surrounded by sounds and sights that keep us from having nothing to do. My friends, why has being bored taken such a bad rap? And is it such a bad thing? Good question, right? But choosing to be bored, really? Do we want to do that? I mean, how many of us have done that recently? Chosen to be bored. You might be thinking, well, isn't that just wasting time, Beth? Why would I waste time when I could learn something? But see, on the contrary, being bored is actually good for us. And what if when we allow ourselves to be bored, we actually boost our creativity and enhance our overall well-being? If you're thinking, boredom, oh, no, not for me, Beth. Give me my screens and my headphones. Don't mess with my day. What if you found out there's actual science behind this notion of choosing to be bored? Wouldn't hurt to do a little exploration, right? Shall we? Research, my friend, shows that when our brain is allowed to be idle, it enters what is known as the default mode network. And that is a state where our minds are set free to wander and make unexpected connections. It's during these moments of idleness that some of our creative ideas can be born. Interesting, right? Now, this default mode network, or DMN, that's a network of interconnected brain regions that become active when our minds are at rest and not focused on the outside world. It's during these moments of boredom that our brains engage in what neuroscientists call spontaneous cognition. And that is just a fancy term for daydreaming. So, how does the default mode network relate to our topic today about possibly embracing a bit of boredom? Well, when we intentionally carve out time for stillness and solitude, we allow that DMN to flourish. And when we disconnect from the world's constant barrage of external stimuli, we create space for our minds to wander freely, unconstrained by the loud and constant distractions that surround us everywhere all the time. So let's look a little more into the benefits of being bored and letting our mind wander about on its own. Now, I found a site called hope-wellness.com, and they had this article called Why Being Bored is Good for Your Mental Health. And here are some of the fun facts I found. Being bored gives your brain time to process information. And well, this idle time actually is just letting your brain think. When you give your brain some quiet time where it is not constantly surrounded by screens and music and smartphone info, your brain has time to actually do its job. And that is just to think about stuff. When given a chance to be on its own without distractions, Our brains have time to process what's going on in our lives. You have time to just sift through your day and process information and reflect on things. And this is where you can find answers to problems that seem unsolvable. It's really a small wonder that many amazing ideas come to us in the shower. So, next, and this is why I thought chatting about being bored was a good idea for the podcast today. When you allow yourself to be bored and your mind has time to wander, this, my friend, actually boosts curiosity and here's the kicker, it boosts creativity. So think about the times you've sat at a desk or a computer, or you looked at a sketch pad, or, and I'm talking to my Procreate students here, stared at your iPad, and you found yourself either unable to start a project or completely stuck on a problem that seemed to have no solution. And then, let's say in frustration, you're like, and you decide to go take a walk or to exercise or have a nap or maybe just throw it all down and have a good night's sleep. And suddenly, boom, the answer just pops into your head. Well, that is the genius of being bored. It gives your brain time to ponder without distraction, and your imagination is let out to run wild and play with thoughts, and voila, you get ideas. And now let's go back to being a bit sciencey, shall we? When our minds are free to wander, that default mode network, DMN, it becomes a hub of activity, and it introduces this connection to that connection. And between seemingly unrelated ideas and concepts, it suddenly has these aha moments. And it's during these moments of boredom when our brain has time to do its best and do its work, which is to think about stuff. And that's when our most innovative and original ideas can come to life. And here's another benefit. When you remember to let yourself be bored and you say, it's okay, I can be bored for a little while, it's good for me. This permission can lead to improved self-control. And you're thinking, what? Beth, how can self-control happen just by being bored? It seems a little far-fetched, right? But here's the thing. When you realize that it's okay to be bored, it will give yourself this permission to unplug and stop doom scrolling whenever you find yourself with nothing to do for a small stretch of time. So you have to be able to realize that it's okay to be bored. So raise your hand. Mine is up. Have you been guilty of sensing a moment of downtime? And when you realize that you've nothing to do, you think, oh my gosh, I have nothing to do. And then you scramble to get something that will fill that moment of silence. You grab your phone or you turn to a TV or a tablet, all so that you won't be on your own with nothing to do. Again, my hand is still raised. I am guilty of this. But I am learning about this about myself. And I've been challenging myself to occasionally walk Raspberry without my headphones. And for those of you who are new, Raspberry is my dog. Or I journal to just birdsong instead of listening to the local news or a podcast. Or I sing to myself in the car instead of connecting to my latest book on tape. All of these moments of quiet or stillness, I know now will give me more time to just be myself. Getting comfortable with being bored or realizing that you're actually not bored, your brain is given time to get very busy solving problems and finding solutions. So you're not bored. You're just not being barraged by the digital world. And knowing this actual knowledge, that is important. And that gives you self-control because you can make that decision. Discovering how to regulate your time between being still or embracing the noise of the world, because it's okay to do that, embrace the noise of the world. but just not all the time. That is a skill that takes some practice. So, how can we reclaim the lost art of boredom in our lives? Well, it starts out by carving out some intentional time for stillness and solitude. And that means occasionally putting away your phone and turning off your TV and just embracing silence and allowing yourself to simply be without the need for constant stimulation. And you know, I love a good list. So I've brought together a list of things for you, or a list of times that you can consider when it might be easy to be bored during your day. So think about these moments when you could unplug and allow your brain to just think about stuff. And if you look at this list, it's probably going to give you some other ideas of things you can add to this list. So here's my list. During outdoor activities, this is number one. You know, things like when you're outdoors, things like running, walking, hiking, fishing, biking, gardening, these kinds of activities can be perfect for disconnecting from technology. Use this time to let your mind just wander and appreciate the beauty and the sounds of your surroundings. Number two, look for quiet moments of transition from this activity or event to the next thing you need to do. So throughout the day, there are often moments when we are in transition and we could choose to be unplugged for just a little while. But we tend to fill these transitions with distractions. For example, that first cup of coffee in the morning before you start your day, or when we need to eat a meal by ourselves, or when we are driving from here to there when we're running errands. We can use these transitional moments as an opportunity to reconnect with yourself and your inner thoughts. Another place for me during my day that's transitional is quite often, since I work at home, I will work in some really quick chores. Like today, I'm working on laundry. So I'll take a break to stand up and move around a little bit, and I'll move my washed into the dryer and then from the dryer into a basket. And quite often when I do that, I'll pop on a podcast to listen to while I'm doing those transitional things. But every now and again, I think, nope, I'm just going to go in and let my brain just sort of, ponder and think about things and connect ideas together. I do come up with some pretty cool ideas when I'm doing something transitional like that. So look for those transitional moments in your day and look for them as an opportunity to reconnect with yourself and your inner thoughts. And number three, how about that time right before bed? Instead of scrolling through your phone or watching some television before bed, try spending some quiet time in contemplation. This can help you calm your mind and prepare you for a more restful night's sleep. And here's something I learned the other day, that if you're someone who hits the snooze alarm, if you build in a little time to hit the snooze once or twice, try not going right back to sleep. Try allowing your brain to just do a little bit of preparing for the day thinking. I do this. I sometimes think of things I have forgotten to do. I come up with some new ideas that I hadn't thought of before. So that's a little bit of a time where I am completely unplugged and I let my brain just wander. It's a time to think. And number four, think about breaks that you take during your workday. So instead of filling your work breaks with mindless scrolling on social media, maybe take a moment to disconnect and recharge quietly. Use this time to go for a walk, practice deep breathing, journaling, or engage in some brief meditation. All of those things are going to help your brain take a break from the world and just have time to think about stuff. Now, by identifying the moments in our day when boredom can happen and we become aware that there is a choice to be made. Should I unplug and let my brain wander creatively? Or should I look at Instagram? Because you can decide that. You don't always have to be bored. but you don't always have to look at Instagram. Make it a nice balance. Now, Nancy Gibbs, she's the former managing editor for Time magazine. She's also an author and commentator on politics and values in the United States. She once said, be bored and see where it takes you, because the imagination's dusty wilderness is worth crossing if you want to sculpt your soul. When we are in control of deciding boredom or my iPhone and Instagram, and we choose to be a bit bored during our day so that we can let our brains think about stuff, it can ultimately lead to increased creativity and well-being. And isn't that cool? Wouldn't that be nice? It doesn't cost any money to have this extra spark, this extra piece of inspiration that could happen during our day. But we have to make the choice to be bored. And we're not talking about days of no tech or TV, just moments here and there during the day when we can just let ourselves be a bit bored. So my friend, let's think about this question again. When was the last time you were bored? And did you choose to be quiet and just let your brain think about stuff? And then let's think about the next opportunity when you will have a chance to be bored. What will your choice be? Will you choose to be quiet and let your brain just think about stuff? The benefits of boredom extend beyond just our creativity. Studies have showed that boredom can actually improve our mental health, helping us reduce stress and anxiety. So by unplugging from the constant noise of our digital world, we give ourselves the opportunity to recharge and reconnect with our inner selves. And that, my friend, helps our creativity in heart, mind, body, and soul. So the next time you find yourself being bored, maybe resist the urge to reach for your phone or turn on the TV and let your mind wander. Who knows what creative treasures you might unearth in the depths of your imagination? Are you brave enough to be bored a couple times today? Try it. Embrace the stillness, the silence, and the serenity that comes with a bit of boredom. Allow yourself to drift into the realm of daydreams and imagination. See where it takes you. Imagine what you could create today if you were a bit bored. So unplug and be boring. I double dog dare you. Thanks for tuning in and sharing a creative moment with me today. Bye for now. And as always, stay creative, my friend. Oh, here's one more note from our sponsor. And that's still me. I have an exciting invitation for you. Winter is just winding down. We're seeing some hope for spring and summer here in the Chicago area. Today, in fact, it's early March, but it is going to feel like summer. We're going to reach 70 today. Summer's on the way, so it's time that you start preparing what you're going to be doing all summer. And one thing you can do is something for yourself. Join me at the Artist Rising Retreat Center in the beautiful Connecticut River Valley Inn. The dates I'm going to be there are July 28th through August 1st. I am going to be guiding you through my creative process of taking photos of flowers, drawing and stylizing your beautiful flowers, and then making zenfully gorgeous flower mandalas all in Procreate. We're going to be talking about how we can take your beautiful art and put it on product. Now, the inn is beautiful and will serve you amazing food and drink, and all you need to do is rest and relax and be creative. So come and bring a friend or two or three and meet me in Connecticut this summer for some lovely sun-filled days, and we'll create today together. For registration and to gather more information, just go to www.artistsrising.net/Beth-Buffington-2024. Or look to the show notes for the link, and you will find the information on my Instagram page too. Just search for Beth Buffington. I can't wait to create today with you this summer.